Good evening, friends. I'm Dr. Ajay Shah, bringing this another great Monday evening live. Today we have actually a very special guest. Let me give you a quick page update. We have more than 100,000 followers now. We actually are pretty much all over the world now. We are in the US about 20, 25,000. In India about 10,000 followers, and pretty much all over the world. My wife is also showing a lot of healthy cooking in our kitchen. So she's been posting live 4 or 5 times a week now. We are also on YouTube. We are also on Instagram. So with that page update, let me introduce our today's guest. His name is Ramses Bravo. He actually is one of the great person I know. Matter of fact, when I walked my 57 miles in January 21st, he actually sent me one of his vegan cooking book, just as a thank you and as a gratitude. And I cannot forget that he did that. So he actually is a vegan chef. Let me introduce Ramses. Welcome, Ramses.
Hi there, Dr. Shah. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's start with a simple question. Where do you live and what kind of work you do?
So I live in Sonoma, California, which is about an hour, 20-ish minutes north of San Francisco. I am a chef. I'll show you my t-shirt here. uh, so I've been a chef. I always knew that I wanted to be a chef. So right out of high school, I went to culinary school, and sure enough, I became a chef. And for the last 13 years, I've been the head chef for True North Health in Santa Rosa, California, which is we call ourselves a plant-based wellness center. And so
I have heard about True North, and True North actually is one of the exceptional place. So if you are a head chef at True North, that is a great thing to you, because True North has been very, very pioneering in terms of fasting, in terms of reversing high blood pressure, in terms of eating whole food, plant-based, no oil diet. And Alan Goldhammer, and even Dr. Michael Clapper was there. So I think Dr. Lyle is there. So I think you are in good company. So let me ask you the next question. How long you been a vegan, whole food, plant-based chef? And were you always a vegan chef? And what prompted you to be a vegan chef?
13 years, well, actually, yeah, in 2 weeks, it'll be my 13th year at True North. I was not always a plant-based / vegan chef. When I went to culinary school, that was not the plan. I come from a traditional background, sort of traditional style of cooking school. If it moved, there was a way to cook it, slice it, and serve it. And that was the plan. That was the plan. And then 13 years ago, the universe intervened and decided that my plan was not the way that was things were going to happen. I didn't choose the job. The job chose me. And I've been very fortunate to come across a lot of great people, like all the doctors you were mentioning, and a lot of others. And so it's been a crazy ride, but I'm very grateful for it, for sure.
No, that's a great thing, because I think you are in the right place, and I think you found your destiny. I think I always believe that whatever you are meant to do in life always finds you eventually. So I think you found your destiny, you found where you belong, and you found where you can serve the humanity. So I'm very happy for you and very proud that you are part of that organization. So let me ask you, any personal experience for your own health you've gone through being a whole food, plant-based vegan now, vegan chef now?
Yeah, I used to be a lot heavier, for sure. Eating the regular, the SAD diet, the standard American diet. So I dropped a bunch of weight. I have a whole lot more energy. I'd like to think that I have prolonged my lifespan, as well as improved my quality of life. And I base that on the fact that I see all the people that we're able to help at the place where I work, and how it actually, we are doing that. We're prolonging their lifespan and improving their quality of life. So I think I'm doing the same thing for myself. I, like I said, this was never the plan. I wanted to be like one of those chefs on TV where, they're cooking all sorts of fancy cuts of meats and, expensive, very hard to get into type restaurants. But, you know, things happen for a reason. And so
I think I agree with you. I think things happen for a reason. I think definitely it happened for your health. I think, like you said, you have lost weight, you have more energy, you have increased your lifespan for sure, and you look very happy and healthy. So I think definitely, I think sometimes we don't appreciate, but health actually is the biggest wealth. I think eating any expensive steak versus eating whole food plant-based, you may like expensive steak for that half an hour, 1 hour to show off sitting at some expensive restaurant. But I think in the long term, that's going to hurt you. That's going to definitely, lower your lifespan. So I think at the end of the day, it's health is the wealth, not that expensive restaurant or expensive steak. So I agree. So let's start with some of your specialty now. So let me ask you, when you became a whole food plant-based vegan chef, please give us as many examples as you can. How did you replace meat and animal products with vegan, whole food, plant-based product? And give us examples so our viewers and our listeners can also start to visualize, like how can they start replacing, for example, chicken, or for example, anything else in the traditional dish.
Okay. So my approach was never to replace meat. There wasn't like, okay, instead of chicken, I'm going to use this. Instead of beef, I'm going to use this. My approach was to make really delicious food, because at the end of the day, that's the number one job for the chef. Make the food taste good. Whether he's cooking a steak or a kale salad, it has to taste good. Otherwise, people are not going to eat it. And so my focus was making the food taste really good, so that people would actually say, hey, you know what? I can stick with this diet, and I don't have to have a slice of chicken or a steak or something else. This actually is pretty good. However, I know that a lot of people really want to know, what's the, one for one substitute kind of a thing. So mushrooms and lentils have been really helpful to me in order to substitute. I have probably played with a whole lot of different mushrooms, even more so than when I was a regular chef. So a lot of shiitake mushrooms, a lot of oyster mushrooms and portobello mushrooms. I recently was playing around with some lobster mushrooms, which were fun. And so mushrooms have this sort of meaty sort of texture that you can sort of chew on the same way you would chew on a piece of flesh. So texture-wise, mushrooms are really helpful. As far as the quote unquote the whole protein thing, for me, lentils are, I could eat lentils every day of my life. I actually had some, they're all gone out, otherwise I'd show you the pot, but I had some sweet lemon curry lentils earlier today, which were delicious. And so either as a sort of a stew, or as a sort of porridge, or even I have a recipe in one of my books, which is a red lentil loaf. So you can actually make lentils into a loaf, sort of like a meatloaf kind of thing. So those would be two of the big examples. There's always the tofu and the tempeh kind of a thing. But again, my whole approach has been, make it taste good. It'll be different, but if it's good, people will pay attention to it. And if it tastes good, then they're gonna be very happy and pleased and be like, hey, you know what? I could do this. So that's been my approach.
No, that's an excellent point. I think I agree with you. I think if someone can make a new dish out of a vegan cooking, that would be a new experience, new learning, new taste, and they may actually get addicted to that taste. And I think I agree with you. Mushroom has that consistency. And mushroom actually is one of the Dr. Furman's G bombs. You know, I think mushroom is one of the most important fruit to eat in terms of many health benefits. And also in terms of the lentils, I think like blue zone people, beans and lentils in their staple diet, they eat it every day, and it gives you enough protein. Plus, plant-based protein is much more safer than animal-based protein. So I agree with you. I think mushrooms, lentils, those are not only great replacement taste-wise and texture and consistency-wise, but also health-wise. They've also been proven very healthy food. So I agree with you. So let me ask you a question. You've been at True North and you've been rubbing shoulders with all those giants over there. What do you say about benefits of vegan, whole food, plant-based cooking? Like, give us some of your views on benefits, what you have seen at your center, in your patients, in your own experience, and like what people should say that these are the top 5 benefits if they go vegan, whole food, plant-based.
Okay, so let's go 5. Number 1, you're going to lose weight. So I know that's a big thing for a lot of people, losing weight. You're going to get a lot more energy. And one thing that's very underrated, your whole body is going to function a lot better. That's number 3. The reason for that, which kind of ties into the last question, is when you replace plants as a source of food instead of meat, what happens is you are eating a lot more fiber, and fiber is crucial to the well-being of your body. I did an interview with somebody else, John, I forget his last name. We were talking about fiber as sort of from a guy's point of view. As men, we like Legos, and not that women don't like Legos, but this was this was actually pointed out by somebody else. They're like, oh, you're like 2 little boys, playing with your toys. So we were talking about Legos, and it's kind of like when you eat meat, you have all the pieces where all the guns come out, and the darts kind of shoot at the other cars or the other spaceship, kind of a thing. But the fiber is actually the foundation for the ship. So you could have all the fancy darts and all the cannons and everything, but if you don't have a ship where the cannons are going to go, the cannons don't do you any good. So what happens is the fiber is really just put your whole body in order. People don't understand that fiber is sort of like the instruction booklet. As your food goes into your body, the fiber is sort of directing where things go and how fast each piece goes and in what order. And it's just very important to consume enough fiber so that digestion and absorption of nutrients happens in the right order and at the right speed. We, as a society, we suffer from so many ailments, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that we are so fiber poor as a society as a whole. So that's number 3. So let's see, weight loss, energy, just your whole body functioning better. Your skin gets a lot nicer, you you become prettier by eating plant-based. And I think just overall, helping out the planet, more it's a much more sustainable way of eating. So you're sort of investing in your children's future. So those would be 5 big ones.
No, I agree. I think to repeat, I think weight loss, definitely. I think vegan 7-day Adventist people in in Loma Linda, California, their body mass index is 22 compared to the people, carnivores, their body mass index is 27, 28. So I think they are almost 20, 25 pounds lighter. Energy, definitely. I personally have experienced that, and all patients who go vegan, whole food, plant-based, definitely fiber is a major. And I like the way you described the fiber actually is an instruction booklet, because I agree. I mean, I've never heard like that, but fiber actually directs all the food where it goes. It directs your bacteria in your colon, your microbiome. Fiber directs how quickly your sugar gets absorbed, so how your insulin spikes. So fiber actually it's a good way to say it's an instruction booklet. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And then I think other benefits you said in terms of environment, very, very important. I think like if you want to leave our grandkids or great grandkids a healthy living planet, we need to start thinking proactively right now. Otherwise, in 20, 30, 40 years, we will have planet where we cannot live. I think it's our responsibility as a parent or as a grandparent that we leave better earth than what we are given. So I agree with you. So those are the great benefits. Let me ask you a very important question that applies to a lot of Indian cooking, but even a lot of American cooking too. When we say whole food plant-based diet, how can we make sure it's without oil?
Well, you make sure with it, you make sure that it's without oil by not using the oil. I think your question is, if I may rephrase it, how is it possible to cook delicious food without oil?
Yes.
And the answer to that is absolutely yes, you can do that without oil. The problem with that sort of concept is that for centuries, for millennium really, we have cooked with oil, and it's been passed on from generation to generation. You teach your kids, and they teach their kids, and they teach their kids. And the way to do it is you put a little bit of oil or butter or lard or whatever it is in the pot or the pan, and you heat it up, and then you start throwing your food in there, and you start to brown it up and saute it and all that. So we've been doing that for so long that nobody or very few people think, well, can that be done a different way? And a lot of people, when we suggest to them that they do that, they get this very sort of puzzle look in their face, and the almost the automatic response isn't it going to burn? Isn't it going to stick? And the answer to that is it won't stick, and it won't burn right away. If anything you leave in a pot or pan, you leave it there long enough, it will stick and it will burn. But you do have enough of a window to cook your vegetables and your mushrooms and the onions and garlic and carrots and anything you want to cook in there. You have a long enough window to actually saute and even brown your vegetables without burning them. It's sort of a weird concept for people to do it without the oil, but it actually can happen. And we do it every single day at True North. We don't cook with any oil, salt, or sugar there. And so for 13 years, I've done it. And so I can tell you firsthand that it is possible.
No, I think that's a good point. I think at our house, we have eliminated oil completely for last 3-4 months now. We were very low oil for last 3 years, but now we are zero oil for last 3 to 4 months, literally zero oil. And I know True North is a big proponent of no SOS, salt, oil, and sugar. And I think if you're doing it for 13 years, and I know True North is a busy place, if everybody comes there and stays there for 2 weeks, sometimes a month, and eat that no oil food, it must be a tasty food. So I agree with you. I think it's just a matter of finding how to cook it. What do you use in place of oil? My wife uses a lot of vegetable broth and just a lot of plain water. What are your thoughts on that?
Tell your wife not to use any water. Always vegetable broth if she's gonna use a liquid. But a lot of what I do is what I call a dry saute. So you get your pan or your pot nice and hot, dry, nothing on it, and then you start adding your onions and garlic and mushrooms and whatnot. And so the hot metal from the pot or the pan does start to brown your vegetables. And like I said, you have a long enough window for that to happen before they burn. And so in that course I sent you, there's a whole chapter on sauteing, dry saute, as I'm describing, and also a wet saute, which is you add a little bit of vegetable broth to the pot first instead of the oil, and then you start cooking. Let's see. It's one of the big things for me in order to develop flavor is really, whether it's in the pot or pan or even in the oven, what happens is you want to evaporate as much moisture, as much water content from what you're cooking, whether it's, again, the greens or the mushrooms or whatnot. And by evaporating water out of the food, you concentrate the flavors because you've reduced the volume. So that's one of the big tricks that we do at True North, so that the food tastes really good.
That's a good point, actually. I never thought of it. I think I agree with you. I think when you concentrate the ingredients, I think it tastes better, consistency gets better. And I think that's a good point. So I'm going to tell my wife that just use the vegetable broth now on. So let me ask you the next important question. I think a lot of people, a lot of Americans are not used to eating lots of vegetables. I mean, their plate is full of either grain or full of a lot of meat products or dairy or something. So how can Americans incorporate more vegetables, either raw or cooked? And what kind of approach do you take at True North to have more vegetables, which obviously are much more healthier, much more micronutrients than even grain or animal products? So how can we eat more vegetables?
There's a few ways that we sort of sneak them
Yeah.
people's plates. Um, a lot of it starts with education and letting people know that it's important for them to eat their veggies. And one of the big things is, again, touching on the whole fiber subject. So, fiber is the instruction manual for your body to digest everything that you just consume. The other thing is that we often tell people, say, hey, look, it's very important to eat greens, the kale, the chard, the collard greens, the arugula, any sort of leafy greens, the spinach. And the reason for that is that when we consume greens, long story short, it makes our blood vessels more flexible. So our veins and arteries, if you think about, are your blood vessels throughout your body, that's something you want to be nice and flexible, sort of pliable, the way, in whichever way you want to move your muscles. And so it's very important. After that, then you're like, okay, look, the greens might not be your cup of tea. There are a few ways to sneak them into your food. For starters, in the morning, we like to make smoothies, and everybody loves smoothies. You can always, make a nice sweet orange mango smoothie, so you got a sweet and tangy sort of flavor going on. And right at the end, you sneak in, a handful of spinach in there, and it turns it green. But when you drink it, it's nice and sweet and tangy. So you taste the mango and the orange. You don't taste the spinach. So that's one way to do it. Either spinach or kale. The other way is we put it in a lot of our beans, and we tell people, again, because we don't use any salt in our cooking. I say, look, we're going to evaporate as much water content out of all the veggies as possible, so the flavor concentrates. And we're going to use vegetable broth instead of water to cook, so we get a flavorful liquid cooking our beans instead of water. So there's more flavor. And in order to get a little bit of natural sodium into those beans, we're going to add a little bit of chopped up Swiss chard or beet greens or kale, so that you get a little bit of that salty effect going on. Plus, it gives a nice color contrast, a little bit of green in there with the reds and the browns and the yellows in there. So it makes it more colorful. And so it's not a one answer to the whole problem. It's just all these little bits and pieces.
No, I think that's a good point. I agree with you in terms of your blood vessel flexibility. I think when we eat that animal-based fatty meal, we know the blood vessels constrict actually. And I think a lot of male Americans don't realize that a lot of their erectile dysfunction is actually due to fatty meal they eat, and there are a lot of studies on that. And when that meal was replaced by, green, whole food, plant-based meal, the blood vessels improved, and in the erectile dysfunction improved also. So I think even Game Changers movie, I mean, a lot of those athletes, they have a great blood vessels, and that's how they have like high athletic abilities. And that's where the whole food plant-based come. The recovery is better. So I think eating vegetables definitely is a win-win situation in every way you can imagine. It makes you win in the life. So I think that brings the next question. A lot of our listeners, followers, many times they work one job, two jobs. They're young kids. They're busy in their life. They have to take care of the house, do the laundry. Many times they're reaching out for a lot of processed food from the package, a lot of microwave dinners, a lot of fast food, a lot of going out to restaurant. And the common question is, how can I be so busy in my life and still take time to cook whole food plant-based? So what is your answer in terms of preparing a meal for the family in hour and a half, which is whole food plant-based? Is it possible, and how can it be done?
Oh yeah, there's hour and a half is more than enough time to eat plant-based. So number one, when we're talking about eating plant-based, we're not talking about just eating plants. So if somebody's listening and they're thinking, it's like, oh my God, they're telling me all I have to do, the only thing I can eat is vegetables and greens, and that's not going to sustain me. And no, the answer is no. A big part of what we do is starch, simple starches such as potatoes, yams, rice, quinoa, buckwheat, wild rice, polenta. What else am I missing? I'll think of what I'm missing. So, but the point is that, excuse me. The point is that we get a good amount of our calories through starch. So imagine eating like a family of four, and it's pretty easy to grab 8 potatoes, so everybody gets two potatoes. You wash them, cut them in half, and then throw them in the oven or the steamer, and that really does not require a whole lot of prep, a whole lot of expertise, but it gives you a big substantial amount of calories. After that, all you need is another 15-20 minutes to add the sauteing of the onions, garlic, ginger. You brown those up a little bit, then you throw in your garam masala or your curry, and keep stirring that, and then after that in comes your tomatoes, maybe a little bit of coconut milk, just a little bit if you really want that. And then suddenly, you add some vegetable broth, and suddenly you have this really nice sort of stew, ragu kind of a thing. So that, excuse me, when your potatoes are done coming out of the steamer or the oven, here you can pour a really nice, ragu or, sort of stew right on top of that. And so you get this big portion of potatoes, and yet you get a good amount of veggies in there as well, and it really does not take that long. Aside from that, you can find a lot of examples of recipes where you can cook them in bulk. So for example, I have a really great recipe, the oatmeal French toast, which is everybody loves. So oats, another starch, which is whole food plant-based. And if you make a large amount of it, and then you cook it, set it in a container and allow it to cool overnight. After that, you can flip it over onto a cutting board, and then you get this sort of loaf of, kind of like a loaf of bread. And from there, you can slice, 1 or 2 slices, whatever you're going to need to go to work. And instead of getting a Pop-Tart or a bag of chips or some other type of junk food, which is going to cost you more than oatmeal, you can cook it one time and have it for the rest of the week. So it's a matter of finding, a few recipes, a few sort of to-go meals, um, or go-to meals, I should say. Your repertoire or 10, 12, 15 maybe, that you know how to make. They're easy to make, and then you cook them one time, and then you have them for the rest of the week. And like I said, you get 10 to 15 of those. You rotate them, and that way you're neither getting bored, nor are you buying all these sugary, oily kind of snacks.
No, that's an excellent point. I think starchy food, like you said, like Chef AJ says, I think eating potatoes, a lot of people say no to potatoes, but if you eat potato by itself, it's pretty healthy actually. Same with sweet potatoes, many of those intact grains like you described, those are your base for the calories. And then you add those greens for the micronutrients, and I think your meal is ready. And I think, like you said, many of these meals can be very cost effective compared to buying a ready-made food from cafeteria or a vending machine or even a fast food. I think when you cook vegetable meals at home, unlike the salads at McDonald's, the vegetable meals cooked at home are much more cost effective. A lot of people get a wrong idea that vegetable eating is or whole food plant-based eating is expensive because only experience they have of eating salads is at McDonald's, which is typically $5 to $6, which is a burger and a fry, which is $2. So I think they have a wrong idea. But once they go to grocery store themselves, buy the greens and vegetables and intact grains and cook themselves, they can make probably a nice meal for less than $10 for a family of four, which is much more cheaper than going to a restaurant or even a fast food and a lot healthier. So let me ask you the next question. What kind of spices you think every kitchen should have if they want to go whole food, plant-based, no oil?
Let's see. They should definitely have at least one, but I'd say two different types of curry in their household. Sort of a mild one, and and either a sweet one or a spicy one. Whichever they want. So have a yellow curry and a red curry or a green curry. You also want some sort of Latin chili, cilantro type of spice mix, like a Cajun maybe. Definitely some regular just granulated onion and granulated garlic, black pepper also. And what else?
We use a lot of paprika, a lot of turmeric.
I use a lot of smoked paprika, and the reason for that is it has this sort of deep, rich sort of complexity, but the smokiness is very important because a lot of people, when they eat meat, a roasted chicken or a carnitas or some other type of meat dish, there's usually that end piece that starts to burn a little, so you get that sort of a little bit of smoke, over caramelized a little bit, that it's almost like it's carbon, the carbonized flavor. So by adding smoked paprika in there, it mimics that aroma, that that flavor. So when you eat the potato or the potato or the lentil stew, I'm thinking, I was writing a recipe earlier for smoky red lentils, which have that smoked paprika in there, and there's potatoes in there as well. So it's a combination of this starch in there, which fills you up, and then you get your lentils, which give you both protein and fiber. And then you sneak a few greens in there. Spinach is in that recipe, so that you balance the green with the red. And then you get that smokiness in there, which give it sort of a rich sort of essence to it. You really don't miss the meat hardly at all.
Yeah, that's a great point you made. So next question is, based on your experience, based on your understanding, I know you work at the True North, but I'm sure you have your own kitchen. Uh, what kind of appliances a family should have if they want to go whole food, plant-based, no oil? Like at home, our house, we have like 2 or 3 Instapot. And Instapot is our go-to appliance for every day. My wife cooks so many things in Instapot that we cannot live without Instapot. So that's one of them for sure. What else do you recommend for people to have?
Um, I actually own an Instapot. I've had it for about 2 weeks. um, I was never a big fan of it, but I did a cooking show with my friend Chef AJ, who you know, and she gave me one because she has like 4 or 5. So she's like, "Here, take this one with you." Um, I was never a big, fan of it because as a chef, I'm in my kitchen, for many hours a day, and I'm thinking, I cook everything from scratch. It's not a big deal to me. But I think for a family that's starting to go plant-based, and a lot of them who don't have a lot of experience in cooking or don't have a lot of time, an Instapot is a really good thing to have because you can throw everything in there, set your turn it on, put your setting in, and then walk away. And then whenever you decide to come back, boom, dinner's ready, lunch is ready. So that's a really good one. I don't think I could live without a blender. My Vitamix is very important. Um, Food processor, it's up for debate. I definitely need one at work. I cannot do without it. But at home, maybe,
How about an air fryer?
um, I'd rather use the oven. Uh, the the thing about air fryers is that they're not very big. So one of the things when you go plant based is that calorie intake is should be about the same. If you eat a meat diet or you eat a plant based diet, you should technically eat the same amount of calories. Um, the fatty meats and the all that oily sort of dressings and all that stuff can be very high in calories. And so when you make the switch, you have to sort of replace, the same number of calories. So what happens is with air fryers, sometimes they're small, and the amount of the portions that you get are not that many. So if you got a family of, 5, 6, one air fryer might not be able to serve everybody. So I really just like, sticking everything in the oven. My roasted potatoes and the roasted yams and the baked vegetables and baked mushrooms, everything goes in the oven. And if you have a kitchen, you you probably have an oven in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No,
definitely,
that's a good point. I think I agree with you. I think fryer size, even though we have one of the large air fryer, but even that's much smaller than an oven. And I think if you're cooking for family of 4, I think oven is probably the best way to start. And I think most, like you said, every kitchen has an oven. How about in terms of we also have a steamer. Like we make a lot of our dishes into the steamer. Any thoughts on that?
you don't need a steamer. All you need is a pot, and I'll describe it really quick for you. Here, I'll use my glass. So imagine that my glass is a pot, right? And here's the burner. So we get, this is perfect actually. You get just a little bit of water in that pot. We're talking like maybe 2 ounces at the most. You turn it on to high heat, you put the lid on, and then you wait for the steam to start escaping. That gives you a steamer. And so when that's ready, you throw in your carrots, your Brussels sprouts, your zucchini, your kale, whatever vegetables you want to steam, and there you have it. 2-3 minutes later, whatever steam vegetable you need is right there. That replaces the big pot with the big basket insert, which then you have to wash later on, and they don't always fit in the sink because they're so big. So all you need is a small pot. And if you're cooking something
I agree with you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if you're cooking something that takes longer, like potatoes or beets, then you would add a steamer basket insert and just add a little bit more water, so that your steamer has enough water to go longer.
That makes sense. You know, I saw one of your episode on your Facebook page about how to take care of knives. And I think that to me is a very important question for many families, many cook, many chefs, that they all have knife, but they all need to take care of them. So please, I'm not much familiar with the knives myself, but tell us, for all our viewers and even for myself, how to take care of knives.
Yeah, that's very important. It actually ties in with your other question. As far as appliances, the number one thing is you have to have a sharp knife. And the way you take care of your knives is by not putting them in the sink. So when you use your knife and you're done with it, right away you wash it, rinse it, dry it, and then you put it away with a knife guard or one of those magnet strips that fit in the wall, so that you put it in there, and now the knife is not in the sink where all the pots and pans and the glasses and the plates are in there, so it's not banging around any of the other dishes. They don't go in the dishwasher, because in the dishwasher the blade starts to warp over time. So that's the biggest thing that you can do for your knife, is take care of it, and make sure that the edge is not banging around anything else. When you put it away, it's not in a drawer full of a bunch of other knives, so now they're banging around each other. Worst case scenario is one of those knife blocks where each knife has their own place to go. I don't recommend those necessarily, because you can never clean inside of there, so over time you do develop some bacteria. So that'd be like the worst case scenario, maybe, but definitely not in a drawer full of other equipment or whatnot. That's the biggest thing you can do for your knife, whether you spend $30 on it or whether you spend $1,000, which you can on a chef knife. You gotta baby that edge.
That makes
and
sense.
certainly in between uses, you have your steel, the honer, and then you run the blade against it a few times before and after.
That makes sense. Let's switch to something what you do every day. So please tell us your top 3 favorite dish, and if you can just give us a 1-minute summary, like why it's your favorite and how easy is it to make.
Probably oatmeal. I have oatmeal at least 5 times a week. One of the reasons why it's sort of my favorite is because you can make it into just about any flavor you want by adding different spices, different fruit, different dried fruit. You can add some nuts to it. You can make oatmeal taste like so many different things. And it's whole food, plant-based. It gives you the fiber, it gives you the starch, it gives you the calories, it gives you the energy. But you can change it up. It doesn't have to taste the same every day. So in a pot, I like to get a flavorful liquid going, whether I'm using apple juice or even orange juice or peach juice, a combination of the two. If it starts to get too sweet, I'll cut it down with some water, because I don't want it to be too sweet. And then whatever spices you want to throw in, maybe some vanilla, cinnamon, nutmeg, orange zest, lemon zest. I did one time with lime zest and blackberries, which turned out really good. Pumpkin spice, allspice, juniper berries. This morning I made my oatmeal. I made some chai tea, some fresh chai tea, and so I strained all the spices, and so I had this sort of chai flavor oatmeal. It was really good. Once your liquid is boiling, you add your oats in there. 5 minutes later, you turn the heat down to low. 5 minutes later, give it a couple stirs here and there, and boom, your oatmeal's ready.
No, I like oatmeal. I think oatmeal is one of the most versatile thing. My wife makes a spicy oatmeal too, and I think it's as tasty as the regular sweet oatmeal. So I think like oatmeal can be turned into anything you like. I agree with you. How about in terms of some of your salad dressings?
Are you asking which ones
Which one you like and how easy it is to make?
Oh, I like them all. And they're very easy to make. You put the stuff in the blender, you turn it on, and 30 seconds later they're ready. A couple that people really like, especially people who are just starting to make the transition from regular food to plant-based, is you want to give them something that they can sort of grab onto for a little bit of a security blanket. I have a citrus tahini dressing, which I really like, and people really like. Then also a lemon parsley dressing, and probably the smoky tomato dressing.
Wow.
Those are big fan favorites.
Yeah, they all sound pretty good. And I think I'm going to talk about your book in a second. But let me ask you the question. You work at the True North Center. Please tell us what kind of programs they offer and how easy it is to be a patient there. Do they have any online programs and how can they reach them?
Let's see. We call ourselves a plant-based / vegan wellness center. We're essentially a hotel. People make their reservation, they book the room, they arrive, they check in, they get the room, and then we feed them plant-based meals 3 times a day. If they're not eating, they're on a juicing program, or they're in our fasting program. So that's one of the big things that we do is our fasting program, which means people just drink water for however many days they and the doctor decide that it's that they should. People will go into the fasting program and then they have to come out of it. So then they have to juice and eat eventually. As far as online, I know that we, with the situation right now, we started doing like conference calls online for people who want to speak to the doctors and the practitioners there. So we're sort of in the process of making that work. I don't exactly know how it all works. I just know that the doctors do Zoom consults. Right.
Yeah, I think I have had experience, not personally myself, but some of the people I know who have stayed at True North, and they have had some great experience. And I'm sure many of them ate your food because they were there within the last 5-7 years. So I think, and you were there since 13 years, so I'm sure they had your food and they enjoyed it. So let me ask you the next question. How can people follow you? Please tell us your Facebook page or whatever page you have so people can start following you.
Sure, yeah. So I do a weekly thing on Facebook, usually Fridays, 2 p.m. Pacific time. I have my own website, which is bravopb.com. And within that website, there is some free recipes. There's a blog. And there's also, I have my first online cooking course is on there. That's the one I sent you for walking all those miles back in January. The second one has been filmed, but is not ready to be launched yet. So they told me first week of December, the second course will be ready. So by then there'll be two online courses there. A lot of the questions you ask me, like the steaming and the sauteing and the all the greens, I go into detail into my courses, and it helps me because I'm in the kitchen setting by the stove, so people can watch recipes from start to finish. I also have a YouTube channel which is called Bravo Plant Based. So 2 words, Bravo, my last name, and then plant-based. There is probably about 10 to 12 videos, and I'm adding to them. I actually just got set up a plan of 2 different sort of modules that I'm going to start doing. So yeah, plenty of different ways.
No, I have seen your website. I've seen your book. I've seen your YouTube channel. I've seen you on Chef AJ. I saw your interview with her. So I think definitely you are. I mean, not only you are a great chef, but you are a great influencer in terms of how people can start whole food plant-based. Because I know a lot of vegan chefs, but many of them don't have the same passion and same energy and same kind of medical knowledge to educate people why they should go whole food plant-based. So I think you have gone beyond just becoming more than a whole food plant-based chef. So I think that's very impressive. I'm very proud of you, actually. I think we need more people like you, because I always say, if a doctor tells you about eating whole food plant-based, but if doctor cannot cook, I don't think he or she can exactly show you how to eat whole food plant-based. So I think you are like a mini doctor showing us how to eat healthy, because at the end of the day, I think the knowledge, we cannot feed ourselves with the knowledge. We have to feed ourselves with the food. And that's where I think your role comes in. So I appreciate you coming on. Please give us your last few thoughts or last final message to all of our viewers.
Sure. Touching on that a little bit, a doctor can tell you what not to do. But don't eat meat. Don't eat a whole bunch of oil. Don't eat a bunch of salt. Because you want to get healthy and you want to prolong your life. And the person be like, okay, I won't do that. But what do I actually do? And so that's kind of where my expertise comes in. It's like, okay, don't do that, but do this. This is how you cook a flavorful meal for yourself. I always tell people, it's like, it doesn't matter how healthy it is. If it doesn't taste good, you're not going to eat it. It doesn't matter how, I'm just the most, even if it's like the fountain of youth, if it doesn't taste good, people are not going to eat from it. And so we want to eat yummy food regardless, whether it's healthy or not healthy. And so that actually helps me, because if I can teach people how to make yummy food that just happens to be healthy, it's just a big plus. And so if you allow me, I just want to touch real quick again. Here is a card. Here's my website, bravopb.com. If you get one of my online courses, it's like super affordable, $20 payment, one-time payment. You don't have to pay again, and you get it for a lifetime. You have access to it every single day for the rest of your life. And so I just want to put this information out there at a very affordable price so that people can enjoy what they eat and improve their health while they're at it.
I think that I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people go to a restaurant, spend $100 for 3 or 4 family members. Here they get lifelong, subscription to a cooking course, from an experienced chef at True North. I mean, I don't think we can ask for more. A chef from True North is like itself is the biggest treat I can imagine. So again, for all our viewers, bravopb.com. Please reach out. Obviously, send him a message on Facebook if you have any questions. Otherwise, consider buying the course, only $20. I think I already have it. I highly recommend everybody to have it. So that's great, Ramses. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thank you so much. I'll look through if there's any questions. I always like going back and see what people posted. So I take time to answer people's questions. So, if you got something you want to ask me, write it on there. I'll go back to it later and answer it to you.
That's correct. Thank you so much again. Have a great evening.
Dr. Shah, thank you so much. You take good care of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.